Welcome and hope you guys enjoy this webinar. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started with a little poll, with a little question. It's just one question, and I'm gonna share it with you right now. And it's just one question. It says, do you know what sage on the stage refers to? The phrase, and just it's a simple yes or no. It should be appearing right now at your screen, and you just click either yes or no. Yes, and I see that you guys are voting. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna give you a few more seconds so you guys can vote. Okay, I see that 77% of you have voted. Okay, I'm gonna give you like a few more seconds. And it's okay if you don't remember. Remember, there's no right or wrong answer. This is just a small survey for me to know, exactly what do you know about sage on the stage. Okay. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and close the survey now. Okay. And I'm going to share the results. Okay, so for the question, do you know what sage on the stage refers to? Here I have with you, 20% of you voted that yes, 80% of you voted that no. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and get started and go to the next, our next slide. Okay, so now, sage on the stage, okay? So here on your screen, I'm gonna start with a definition basically of sage on the stage. So according to the dictionary, the word sage refers to an individual, a very, very wise individual that transmits knowledge, or it's a very, very wise person, okay? So that's what the word sage refers to. Therefore, having a sage at the front of the classroom, well, the classroom will be the stage. So the sage is a teacher, the stage is the classroom. So having the phrase sage on the stage refers to an educator who imparts knowledge by lecturing to an audience. It's pretty much a teacher's, us, what we do. We transmit our knowledge. We are very, very wise. So we transmit our knowledge to the other individuals, okay? So is there anything wrong with that? No, we are teachers, okay? We provide information. We really like what we do. However, in here, the important thing to consider, all right, so I'm sorry. So yes, there's nothing wrong with being sage on the stage. There's nothing wrong with us imparting or lecturing our students. However, nowadays, the 21st century, this demands that we teach and approach our students in different ways, that we use different methodologies, and that we challenge them. Imagine teaching, any subject, and you have no input about it. I'm sorry, no output. You don't really participate. There's no interaction. Take also into account all these different learners. We have diverse learners. Some of them might be kinesthetic. Some of them might be visual. Some of them might be more a little bit with the listening. So if there's only one person in the front of the classroom teaching, it can cause like a little conflict because not everybody might be able to understand. And the reality is that we are not challenging them. We are only providing them with information, a lot of information. Okay, so now with this said, I'm gonna go ahead and open your microphones, and I'm gonna ask you this question. Please share your answers. Why do we educate our students? What is the purpose? Why do we want to educate our students? I think we educate our students because we want to provide them with different tools, right? Maybe we want to educate our students because we want to provide them with different set of skills. We want to teach them different subjects, right? We want to, of course, make sure that they understand. We want to prepare them for the future, right? So this is why we educate our students, okay? So now, moving on. And yes, we educate our students to prepare them for the future. And yes, we don't know the future because we, of course, we cannot predict it, or sometimes we can predict it, but not really. But preparing our students nowadays on the 21st century means that we're preparing them for a world that we completely have no idea of how it's going to evolve. We're preparing them for a future that we do not foresee, okay? So now think about back in the day, the careers, the professions that we used to have. Lawyers, doctors, we still have lawyers, we still have doctors. However, we have all these new set of professions, and at the same time, we have all these new sets, we have these professions or careers that disappear. For instance, we had bloggers, now we have bloggers. Before they were journalists, and now they had to adapt to this new world. So the best skill that we can we can provide to our students is for them to learn to think for themselves, because we're preparing them for a world, like I said, that we really do not understand what's going to happen or how it's going to change. Okay, so now I'm going to share a little survey, another poll with you. Okay, and I want you to please select a career, a profession that you guys actually are familiar with. If you know this profession, it could be more than one. If you know all of the professions that are registered in there or that you see in there, just select on all of them. And I see that you guys are voting. Thank you so much. Okay, and I am closing the poll now. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead, and share the answers. Okay, so most of you, of course, were familiar with the profession or the career as a phone operator, the telegraphist, the blogger, 0% engineering political science, and 0% a trash engineer. Okay, all right. So now, these are actually the reason why I conducted this poll. If you remember the phone operator, it was back in the day that they will transfer the calls. You will call them and they will transfer your calls. They had like a big board, and they had different, they had like a microphone, and they were able to connect one call to another, or they will transfer you. So those were the phone operators. Yes. The vlogger, like I mentioned before, it's right now, like what we have. The journalist, it's something that is happening right now. The telegraphist, that was back in the day. It was a quick way of sending a text message, but nowadays, well, we call it text message. Before, you will send the message through the telegraphist. Engineering political science. The engineering political science, actually, this is a career that is happening right now. I learned about that career because of one of my friends' nephews. He's majoring in that. And actually what he does, the engineering political science, they design different non-profit organizations, and what they do, they're going to create, and they are in charge of designing different governmental offices, but not the actual like the building, but actually how they operate in the political science. Okay, and the trash engineer, you're gonna see it right now. So right now, I want to share with you guys my screen, okay? And let me switch right now, okay? 85% of the jobs that today's students will be doing in 2030 haven't even been invented yet. These are the predictions according to the LinkedIn talent blog. It says it's the mind transfer specialist, statistician. He's going to be focusing on a lot of statistics. Mind transfer specialist, pretty much he's going to be kind of like doing a lot of things for with other people. Of course, the trash engineer. This is something that really caught my eye. The trash engineer. He's pretty much going to be a garbage designer. What does that mean? That since we, of course, they're predicting that in 2030 we're going to have like not a lot of space for trash. Pollution, we don't know what's happening. We're trying to recycle, but it might not work. So the garbage designer is going to be in charge of that. He's going to figure out what to do with the garbage. Okay. And now the organ body part creator, also they're thinking that we might run out of organs. You know how people might need a transplant or transplants for organ transplants. So they're trying to they're going to open this now new position. Okay, the makeshift structure engineer, this is another engineer that's going to design different types of structures, and to see that maybe we don't have enough space anymore on Earth, so maybe we might have to take shifts on different structures that they might have to build, or quick forecaster, etc. So these are just like the new careers, or the careers that they are predicting for 2030. Okay. So now, with this said, according to these websites for careers in LinkedIn and Glassdoor, these are all the skills that our students need to acquire. These are the 21st century skills that our students need to acquire in order to succeed in the future, okay, in the world. So pretty much, if you think about, if you compare the skills that both websites share with us, the foundation of all, the one that is presented the most is thinking. Okay, if students are able to think, they are going to be able to be analytical. They will be able to conduct other set of skills. So the main one here will be thinking. Okay, so now talking about thinking and the 21st century skills, these are the set of the 4 C's for the 21st century skills. We have communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. Okay, right now, of course, we're going to focus on thinking because we want to move our students from that stage on the stage, and we want them to actually be part of the classroom. Okay, so now, what is critical thinking? Okay, here critical thinking, it's the ability to solve problems, make products of that are valid for other cultures, being able to be flexible, use our cognitive development, being original, think about thinking, because sometimes our students only think because we ask them, think about, reflect, but in reality, they're not really thinking about thinking, okay? The idea is here also for them to locate appropriate route to a goal, that they know their objectives, that they are able to capture and transmit knowledge, they can express their views and feelings appropriately, okay? So if you see critical thinking, it's not one particular skill. It's not just one skill. Critical thinking or thinking is a collection of different skills or different abilities. Okay, the good news for us teachers is that according to research, critical thinking is not something that you are born with, or it's something that you naturally acquire, like your language. Our first language, we usually acquire our first language in a natural approach, just by listening to our parents, being exposed to a specific context. That's how we learn in a natural approach. Critical thinking, it doesn't happen that way. The good news is that we can teach and we can learn critical thinking or thinking skills, okay? And then us as teachers, this is important to us because we can help our students reflect on that process. With these, we can allow them and help them become more successful and active learners, okay? Okay, teachers, so now the next time that you're preparing for your class or when you're teaching your class, reflect. And please think about the time that you spend doing the stage on the stage. How much time do you spend at the front of the classroom? And are you actually balancing it out and providing your students and spending time doing the fun critical thinking? That's another thing, because we usually associate critical thinking with something very boring or something difficult or something that students are not going to enjoy. Okay, but here the thing is that no, critical thinking doesn't necessarily have to be boring. It could also be fun. Okay, also reflect, and this is very important that we need to take into account. Make sure that when we are teaching and reflect, are our students really applying any facts or learning about different methods? Are they actually doing some problem solving? Are they learning about different situations? Are my students able to analyze different experiences, ideas? Are they actually reasoning other perspectives? Okay, are they taking the time to evaluate a different point of view? And this is very important, like I said before, because usually your students just hear the point of view of the sage, of the wise person, of the teacher, but do they have time to evaluate that point of view and actually create and make their own judgment and their own point of view? Are your students actually forming new ideas? Okay, and also not only that, Are they connecting those ideas with previous knowledge or previous experiences that they have had? Okay. So now, here the question will be how? We know that, well, we talk about what is sage on the stage. We talk about the best skill that our students can learn. It's actually for them to become critical thinkers, to think. But I know the question is going to be, well, Anaid, how can we do that? You know, everything sounds like beautiful and flowers in the garden, but how can we do this? Well, this is a very, very important piece, a very powerful tool, a great resource. This is the Bloom's taxonomy. Really, the Bloom's taxonomy is going to help you consider the place that you have in the classroom or the place that you have as a sage on the stage. Okay, so this is the Bloom's taxonomy. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, or going to give you a little background of the Bloom's taxonomy. This was created in 1956 by Benjamin Bloom, and it was published exactly that year. The main idea or the purpose of the Bloom's taxonomy was for teachers to be able to classify different learning outcomes, different objectives, and also, but this was again back in 1956. However, I don't think we don't really take it into consideration because even nowadays, these new app developers or new educational websites, a lot of them have based all these learning apps based on the Bloom's taxonomy. So they do have taken it into account, okay? It can also help many it has helped those assessment creators for standard assessments. I know in the United States, they conduct standardized assessments. They have actually used the Bloom's taxonomy to develop and create those assessments. Okay, so there's a revised version. It was revised in 2011 and 2001, I'm sorry, in 2001. And the one on the far left, that's the original Bloom's taxonomy. It was actually with nouns. And the new Bloom's taxonomy, now we use, and they changed the levels. All of these are the levels, knowledge, or now it's remembering, understanding. And all these levels, we have in total 6 levels, they were changed into verbs. So this is a new revised Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so this is, again, the Bloom's taxonomy. And I'm just gonna talk a little bit about each of the different levels that we have. We have, like I said, 6 different levels. We have the first one, or the basic one, the foundation of the pyramid, which is remember. This is where our students pretty much spend time memorizing, repeating, and they are able to recall facts and basic concepts. So yes, this is like the first level. The second level, it's understand. So once they move to the second level, our students are going to be able to classify, describe, explain, and recognize different ideas and concepts as well. The apply, this is the level where students use information now in new situations. So they take it one notch to the top, one extra step, okay? And they do a little bit more than just memorizing. And here they can actually implement, solve, interpret information, and demonstrate what they have learned. The next level, level 4, it's analyze. This is where students are able to draw connections. They are able to organize, compare, contrast, differentiate different concepts. The next one, evaluate. This is where students are able to justify a stand or a decision. So once they have been exposed to all that information, they analyze it. Now they can say, hey, I can back up what I learned. I can back up and defend my point of view. I can create my own point of view, and I can also conduct a critique, okay? And the last level, the highest level of the Bloom's taxonomy pyramid, it's create. This is where actually students produce or do something. They are going to show you the final product. It could be a project, it could be something that they develop and they present to you, okay? So now, moving on, here with the Bloom's taxonomy, we talk about the 6 levels, But the first three levels, remembering, understanding, and applying, are the lower order thinking skills. And all of them, students are applying the thinking skills. But for the most part, as teachers, and it is obvious because we have no time, because sometimes we're busy, because we need to adapt to a certain curriculum, or because or maybe our school has like a different focus. The curriculum or the whole plan, the educational program of the school has a different focus. And for the most part, we only allow our students to develop the first three levels of the Bloom's taxonomy pyramid, remembering, understanding, and applying. And our students are never really able to take it beyond and actually analyze, evaluate, and create. Okay? So now, I'm going to share with you 5 strategies that you can use in your classroom to implement Bloom's taxonomy, okay? And this is you're going to see how you can apply higher order thinking skills and also lower, all of them, okay? So these are 5 strategies that you can implement in your classroom. So the number 1, and the strategy is for you guys to use all levels. Make sure that you use all of them. How can you do this? Well, spend enough time on each level. Sometimes we want to rush things, and if we don't follow the cycle or the process, things are not really going to happen for the students. This is make sure that you can mix and match. So just because you're on a level doesn't mean that you cannot use that level to scaffold and go to the next level. So you can mix and match, and like I said, scaffold. Contrary to what a lot of people say, memorization, yes, there's nothing wrong with memorization because it can actually help the students reduce the load on the cognitive process. However, I guess here the problem comes because we heard nowadays a lot that memorization is not good, that we shouldn't memorize things, that students, of course, need to really understand, apply, and analyze the information. That is true. There is nothing wrong with memorizing, and yes, but the problem it's actually when students get stuck, or as teachers, we don't allow our students to go beyond the memorization part, which is the remembering, the first level. But if we use that as a foundation, if we use that as a bridge to continue and go to the next levels, memorization can be very beneficial for our students. And finally, here with spiral learning. Spiral learning can be used pretty much to frame a lesson, to develop your assessments, or even to develop PBL or project-based learning. So this is something really cool with using all the levels of the pyramid. And with spiral learning, also think about that sometimes you need to go back. You need to go back to basics. You need to take a step back because maybe your students are not at a level or they haven't completely understand a concept. So spiral learning, it's gonna come beneficial. And if you actually apply the Bloom's taxonomy, you can see exactly where is that your students or what is the skill or the ability that they are lacking and that they do not understand. Okay. The second strategy, use technology. Please, this is very important. I know sometimes teachers, we have trouble with technology. We get nervous, and sometimes there are software programs that are not very user-friendly. However, technology can become very beneficial, especially if you can apply it with the Bloom's taxonomy, okay? So how is technology going to help you, especially on the create level, the final part of the pyramid, the top of the pyramid? This is when technology is going to help you because students need to actually present, okay? They need to pretty much present their projects or what they're doing. So it requires a lot of innovative and fun and interactive technology for your students to present their final project, okay? The wonderful thing about using technology is that students can go at their own pace. You don't have to rush them and everything will be saved, okay? They can track their work, and not only they can track their work, you can track their work for them. Okay, so it's beneficial for both parts. There's a lot of apps. You can include apps. You can, maybe they can post their stuff on Instagram. I'm going to share with you right now some apps. They can use digital technology. Like I said, they can use social media. And this is a very important tool that can be very effective for introvert students. You might have those students that are very shy, that don't feel very comfortable being at the front of the classroom. They don't like to be the sage. They don't like it. And maybe they might feel a little bit more comfortable. And this does not mean that they're not talented. Maybe they have a lot to say, but they just feel very shy and they don't feel comfortable. So this will be like another way to kind of like adapt to different types of learners, okay? And finally, practice. Our students need that practice for technology. Yes, we also say that technology maybe has kind of like disturbed a little bit education, but I don't think that technology is the problem. The problem is the approach, because we don't teach our students how to use technology properly. But if we teach them to use it as a tool, as something that is going to be beneficial for them, I think their approach or the way that they use technology, it's going to change. Okay. I want to share with you, this is an app that I actually used a lot. It's called Seesaw. And it's actually, the purpose is to capture learning, the learning of our students. I was a teacher in the United States, in Texas, in El Paso. And I don't know if you guys know, but in El Paso, there are a lot of, I'm sorry, it's a very small town, dusty town, but a lot of people take for granted and they think that there's nothing out there. However, in El Paso, there is one of the biggest military bases that is called Fort Bliss. So I had a lot of students that their parents were military, but it turns out that the parents were sent overseas. So they were sent to other continents because they had to over there go to another military base in other continents. But the parents wanted to be involved. Usually the mom stayed and the dads were the soldiers, so they were overseas. And we use Seesaw to capture pretty much all the moments and all the learning. The best way to describe Seesaw, it's pretty much like a digital gallery. I don't know if you guys have actually conducted or done galleries in your classroom and you present and project all the tasks and projects and things that your students have done. Well, here with Seesaw, you can do the same thing. You can showcase them, but since this is an app, you can showcase them all over the world. It has a blog. You can take photos. You can upload pretty much all the projects. You can take videos. You can draw on the app. You can add links. Students can take notes. They can share. So like I said, it's pretty much a community where you can showcase, or it's like a gallery where you can showcase all your students, everything that your students have done. And this is an example. These are examples of Seesaw. I'm sorry. And in here, they even have a blog. So this is like a post from a student from 4th grade. And the dad was able to read what the student did. Okay, so they can make comments. I don't know, it's really, really, really cool. Like, it helped me a lot. And I use this even with kinder. So it's not only something that you use with maybe older kids, middle school, it can adapt to different grade levels. Okay, what I'm gonna go ahead and do, it's also share with you. I found there's this website that I really like, blog. It's called Wabi Sabi Learning. And actually, I found this article, and if you see at the top in here, it says analyzing. So I suggest that you visit this website. Again, it's called wabisabilearning.com. And in here, this article is actually referring or providing you with apps. These are iPad apps, but there's also websites that you can use, and they are already matched and connected to the Bloom's taxonomy. So this is an app that students can use to satisfy the level, the analyzing level. This app is called Inspiration Maps. And what students can do, they can draw diagrams, they can create their own mental maps, graphic organizers, and they can go back and forth with their information, and they can view it as notes, as outlines, or they can actually create maps. As you can see, we have here, these are some screenshots or examples. They can see something very simple or basic. They can brainstorm. So this is pretty much so that they can take notes, analyze all the information, and then they can, of course, transfer it into something else. So this is another example. The first one, here we see like a little more basic concept map. The second one, it's a little bit more elaborated, and this is a speech that one of the students is doing about a month. So these are just like examples, okay? Another app that I found on this wonderful article, and this will be for the creating level. They're actually here showing or providing us with two samples. The first one is called Splice. Splice, it's like it's like a simple, very user-friendly app that students can use to share their final products, right? If they want to make a video, pretty much that's what they can do. They can upload their photos, videos, and they can use music to showcase their projects or the video. And then we have Vimeo. Vimeo, I think it's something that it's an app that is a little bit more common. Vimeo will be used maybe for students that are a little bit more older. This could be used maybe higher primary, middle school, or even students that are a little bit older. And it's also the same, like for them to host their videos, they can use the app in their iPad. And this one is also compatible with not only with regular tablets, and not only the iPad. They can create their account, and they can import images and produce. Okay. So now that leads me to my third strategy to implement Bloom's taxonomy. Well, let students lead. Again, usually it's very common that the teacher is the leader, but why not letting our students take the lead? In here, I want to, how can you let your students lead? Well, they can share their ideas, allow them to take part and let you know how can they take a lead in the lessons, share their ideas on what lessons they like or what they would like to see in the lessons, in the class. Even on the Bloom's taxonomy, if you expose your students and show them the actual Bloom's taxonomy, maybe they can tell you, you know what, for this level 1, remembering, we should do this project, or we can do this activity, or maybe the best way that we can learn is if we implement, I don't know, this particular task. So allow your students to take the role and take the lead in the Bloom's taxonomy. And also allow your students to take the lead as facilitators. So up there at the stage, it should not only be us, the teachers. The stage of the stage can be our students as well. Remember, we were mentioning one of the benefits of technology, that it will allow our students that are a little bit maybe shy, that it will help them to maybe share a little bit more. Well, if you allow your students to take the lead, guess what? If all of them take the role or take turns to be the leaders, maybe that you will create this community where students feel completely comfortable. They even are going to acquire other skills like communication skills, social skills, you know, and they're going to feel more comfortable, you know. So maybe little by little, allow them to take the lead and maybe explain a lesson. And like I said, allow them to share their ideas, because we are teaching them. They are the future, and we want to know, yeah, it's important. And what if you share with them, and if they see that you care what they have to say, trust me, I think this is even going to help you with your classroom management, because also they're going to take account and they're going to be responsible, accountability, and they're going to become more responsible because they know they need to prepare, and they are going to know what it feels like to be in the front of the classroom. Okay. So now, number 4, my fourth strategy, project-based learning. And I'm going to open your microphones and ask you if you can please tell me or share. Let me know if you have heard of project-based learning. Okay, I have here a question. Janine Sierra is saying that they learn what is important for them or it's interesting. Okay, yes. So they learn with PBL, they learn what is important for them or interesting. Thank you, Sierra, Janine, I'm sorry for sharing. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with project-based learning. Try it, okay? A lot of the times, or for the most part, we think that it's a lot of work. We think that, oh my God, is it difficult? Or it's going to make a mess in my classroom? Maybe it's not a good approach. How can I implement it? How can we do, or what is project-based learning? So this is like a little chart I have here right now on your screen. And the first part, that's the traditional learning. So this is a typical sage on the stage. First of all, we are told what we told what we need to know. We are told what we need to know, I'm sorry. So the teacher tells us what we need to know. And of course, she's a wise person, she's a sage. So yes, we trust the teacher. But they limit us because only the information that the teacher shares with us, that's the only thing that we receive. It's not that the teacher is not wise, but think about it from the perspective of us as educators. There's a lot of workload in our shoulders because guess what? We are wise. However, that doesn't mean that we know everything. And also, we might forget things because we are humans. We're not robots. We're not machines. So we might forget sometimes to mention something to our students. So our students are going to be limited with the information that they are exposed to. So the traditional learning, the teacher talks, she shares, students are told what they need to know. Eventually, they move on to the next stage, which means that they memorize it. Again, we said there's nothing wrong. But if they get stuck in there, if they are not moved out of their comfort zone, the students are not going to take they're not going to be able to go to the next levels, okay? And then in here, they are assigned like a problem to illustrate and how to use it, so then they are able to produce. So this is the traditional learning. Now, the example at the bottom, this is the approach for PBL, or problem-based learning. Myself, I have implemented problem-based learning, and yes, I really, really like using it. It's really, really cool. So first, this is a little bit different. We start, if you see, like with the end. At the beginning, the students are assigned a problem. They tell them, this is what you need to investigate. This is what you need to find out, okay? It's not just what me as a teacher I know. This is what you are going to be assigned, okay? Then they move on to the next stage, which is identify what we need to know. So they identify what they are going to learn about. And then finally, they move on to the last stage, is that they learn and apply what they were assigned, what they found out. They are able to learn it. They analyze it. They pretty much go through the whole Bloom's taxonomy, and they are able to solve the problem, give you the why and how. The how did they solve it, and the why did they come up with that conclusion. So this is really the difference between the traditional learning and the PBL, project-based learning approach. Okay, so now how can we implement PBL in our classroom? Well, first of all, the first thing, you need to, of course, find a way to match or align it to your standards. And by standards in here, I refer to your school standards, because you might have, like I said, there's schools that focus, maybe if it's a Montessori, maybe if it's like a bilingual school, or if it's a, I don't know, 90-10 school. There's different perspectives. So first of all, you need to align it to the standards. Second of all, the other standards that you need to align it and make sure, of course, that you are abiding are the standards from, like here, for instance, in Mexico, it will be maybe from SEP, Secretario de Educación Pública. If you are from other countries, if you are right now watching this webinar and you're from another country, maybe the actual, the standards from your country or your state, the educational standards. So make sure that you find a way to match them, okay? Then the second part, it will be to actually build the culture. You have to build the culture of PBL. Parents need to, of course, get to familiarize, because this is a different model. Your students need to get familiarized. If you guys are coordinators, directors, principals, school owners, of course, you need to train your teachers and everybody. So you have to pretty much build the culture of PBL, okay? This is the cool part, because pretty much every step of project-based learning or the project that the students are going to conduct, you need to find a way to match them into the Bloom's taxonomy, okay? So now, these on the right side, I have like a little graphic. Well, it's not a graphic, it's a picture that describes the majority of the steps or the skills that we use on PBL, okay? So the first one right here, it says driving a question or a challenge that we saw. So first of all, they are going to give them a question or a challenge. That challenge could be a topic. You can even do thematic units. So now it's the need to know. Why do we need the need to know it? Why do we need to know about this particular topic, about this particular challenge or question? Then the students conduct the inquiry and the innovation. And of course, they connect it and they are able to implement 21st century skills, but also at the same time, they are able to present and compare it to their own experiences of right now. The students have a voice and a choice. So the students are going to be able to present it. Students are going to be able to decide which pieces they want to investigate and present. Then we have here the feedback and revision, okay? And finally, the students, they publish their final product or their project, okay? So this is really much the transition or the cycle for PBL, okay? So in here we see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 steps for PBL, and we have 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy. And if you see, you compare them, they are actually very, very similar, and it's very easy for you to actually match them, okay? Something else that you have to make sure that you do when you implement PBL, make sure you have clear points of advancement to measure the projects. So you know exactly how much you are going to assign to each step or to each step or each stage from the PBL or from the project, okay? If maybe it's the planning, this is how many points you are going to assign. For that, I suggest, or maybe for each level of Bloom's taxonomy, you give them a point. And that's how you can grade PBL. I think that's where rubrics come beneficial. And usually the questions the teacher have asked me before, or when I talk about PBL, they tell me, well, that sounds great, but how I'm gonna grade it? How can I provide a tangible, solid, and I can prove that my students have actually been working? How can I grade this? What can I do? And like I said, the best idea is that assign a point or points to each different level of the Bloom's taxonomy that it's going to be matched to PBL, okay? In here, I'm going to give you an example. The best way that you can do this, and it's using rubrics, okay? And I'll give you an example right now. So this is the comparison pretty much of the Bloom's taxonomy with the steps of PBL, okay? So like I said, we have 7 steps, and look in here, the mix and match. They are very similar. The creating part, obviously, it's the number 7, public product. Okay, I'm gonna open your microphone and I'm gonna ask you if you can please share and let me know if you see how can you match the steps of PBL with the Bloom's taxonomy, or if you wanna write on the chat, please share your ideas. And I think this is the best visual that you can see of how the steps of PBL go and how the Bloom's taxonomy and how can you align them. Okay, I have here on the chat. Okay, in here they share analyzing with research and sustained inquiry. Perfect. Thank you so much, Janine. Yes, that's perfect. Okay, I have here another answer on the chat. Applying with need to know. Yes, that's wonderful. Yes, that's a very, very good match. Okay, and like I said, in here we have on the steps for PBL, for project-based learning, we have 7 steps. So one of them, it's going to actually repeat, but you can assign it to another level of the Bloom's taxonomy. So which other ones do you think they match? Okay, I have here Gabriela is sharing that maybe number 1, the entry event and the driving question. It could be, of course, with remembering and understanding. Yes, thank you very, very much. Yes. Well, so as you can see, oh, I have here another one. Research and sustain and analyzing students' critique with revision, and that will be also the evaluation. Yes, thank you so much, Gracia. Oh, I have here another one, Maria Guadalupe, evaluating with critique and revision. Exactly, yes, wonderful. And Lucia Rodriguez Zarate, thank you. You guys have the same response. Thank you. So if you see, PBL is not difficult. I think it's a really good way. And in here, really, PBL is going to help you understand your students' learning process. PBL, like I said, I use PBL also with kinder and elementary students. PBL, it's really a way to get to know your students, to understand them, to know their learning process, even their thinking process, because you get to see exactly dissected step by step your students' reasoning, thinking process. Because when you compare, like I said, with the Bloom's taxonomy, wow, it's you understand them, you get to know their preferences, like I said, the learning process. Okay, well, thank you so much for your answers, for sharing. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and close the microphones, but remember, you have the little hand if you have a question, and you also have the chat if you want to send, if you have a question or if you have a comment. Okay, so this is a rubric. It's talking about PBL. How can I evaluate it? How can I assess it? I have used this website myself as well. It's called rubystarforteachers.org. And I have the website down there. And if you just Google Ruby Star, it's not here, right here on the, right here. It says Ruby Star for the number 4 teachers. This is a website that actually creates rubrics for you. Oh my gosh, this is a wonderful and practical tool, beautiful tool that you can use. If you don't know how to assess, especially on the creating part of the Bloom's taxonomy, if you don't know, oh my gosh, like this is an example of a rubric to evaluate a block. If your students at the end of the PBL project, they conducted and they decided to present the question or the challenge that was brought to them using a block, in here you can you have the rubrics, you can assign them the points. They are already templates, so the template is already there. You select a category. I have designed rubrics myself for maps, for geography class, math class, science class, English, essays, emails, blogs, writing, different. You're going to find a plethora of rubrics that you can use, like I said, to evaluate and assess your students. So it's a wonderful, wonderful tool. There's templates. This is a website for teachers. You can create the rubrics in different languages. This one is in Spanish, and I wanted to present and show you the one in Spanish. And but here on the top, if you see, it says Rubrics English. So you can do it in different languages. I have a question from Mayra. Is it free? Yes, it is free. But if you want the basic features, yes, it is completely free. Just when they charge you, or when you have to make or you have to pay, because here the idea is that teachers are the best sources, the best resource that we can have, it's another teacher. So if you want to have your rubrics in private, then you have to pay. But if you allow the rest of the world or the rest of the teachers to share or to see your rubrics, this is really what they are going to see. They don't see your information, they don't see your classroom, they only see your rubric. If you allow the rest of the teachers to see the rubric, then it is for free. You can save them, you can edit them, you can even do a little deep analyze, you can print the rubric, you can share it, you can email it. So it's beautiful. Like I said, it's a wonderful tool, and you can assign and decide the criteria of how many points you want to give your students. Okay, and here I have another question. Yes, it's for different levels and different subjects. Like I said, I have been a teacher for kindergarten, and I was a teacher for elementary. And yes, like I said, I used it for geography. So yes, that was a different subject, and that was for 4th grade level. And I use ones for kinder And well, it was completely different, of course, the format. So yes, it's for free and it's for different levels. Pretty much all right now, all the suggestions and even the apps that I show you on the internet, I kind of like make sure that you guys get you know, like resources that are for free and that are actually functional and easy for you to use, and that they are very beneficial. Okay, so yes. And also I think that's a good, I have used them myself. So I think all these sources are really, really cool. Okay, so any more questions about Ruby Star? Like I said, this is wonderful. It has even different languages. Any other questions about Ruby Star? You can write me or type your question. Okay, we're good. Okay, so we are closing the PBL. And again, PBL, beautiful, wonderful. I recommend it. Okay. So now, my fifth or my number 5 strategy that I suggest of implementing Bloom's taxonomy, I suggest that you guys scheme your assessments to the levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So what does that sound? Maybe it sounds a little complicated. How am I going to do this? Oh my gosh. Well, this is what you guys can do. Okay. Again, this is pretty much where if you see, we're scaffolding and we are pretty much going to assign or give points per level of the Bloom's taxonomy. Remember the pyramid? We have 6 levels. So for each level, you're going to give them specific points. So when you create your assessment, make sure that you're implementing assessments that have the actual remembering part, the creating part, applying, analyzing, evaluating. Okay, so make sure, or have a question in here. No, not anymore. Okay, make sure that you are pretty much assigning and utilizing all the levels of the Bloom's taxonomy on your students. Why and how is this beneficial? Well, guess what? Your students are going to be encouraged to move forward. Sometimes we are used to only one format of test. For the most part, I really, really hated my exams because they were multiple choice. And sometimes they were so confusing. And honestly, for me, it was like, oh my gosh, sometimes I will feel that I had more or 2 answers were the correct ones, and that it's not allowing your students to move to another level or move forward. So even when you are planning the questions on your assessments, make sure that you use different formats that are satisfying the Bloom's taxonomy. And like I said, that is going to increase your students' thinking skills. They are going to become more aggressive in a positive way or more higher order thinking skills. Okay, they're going to develop all those skills. Also, you're going to move your students from the comfort zone. Sometimes I remember I had some of my classmates that they were able to kind of like decipher or see, because we tend as teachers or humans, we tend to do patterns or like have a pattern. So they were able to decipher the pattern of the teacher, like for a multiple choice. So they knew kind of like the teacher will do A, B, D, C, and then again she will repeat the pattern A, B, D, C. So make sure we move our students out of their comfort zone, that they don't get familiarized with the assessments. And also, this is going to help your students develop other skills. Like I said, maybe if you apply different techniques for your assessment that satisfy the Bloom's taxonomy, your students are going to, wow, acquire the beautiful skills and wonderful skills. I have here a question. It says, how can we display this kind of evaluation to parents? Okay, and I'll get into that in a moment, okay? All right, so develop the skills from all levels. Like I said, make sure you do that. And also do a step-by-step, okay? And also assign lower points. You will assign lower points, and I suggest this at the beginning for the lower levels, and higher points, of course, to the higher levels. Now, how can you assign this to the, explain this to the parents? The best way, it will be the rubrics. Okay, again, if you have the rubrics, if you have something that can justify you, remember right now the rubrics website that I show you, in there you have all the learning objectives. And let me just go back on the slide. Maybe this one, you can use it. This one says for a block. But if you have your assessment, but in here it's going to say probably the first part of the, let's say you have an assessment, and the top part of your assessment, it's actually an open question. It's an essay question, and your students have to respond to that question. There in here on your rubric, you're going to have the essay question. And if they were good, if they were excellent, they get 4 points. If they did fairly good or good, it's 3 points. If they did fairly good, 2 and 1. So this will be, you will use the rubric for your assessment to break it down. And this is the category. You're pretty much justifying and showing the learning outcomes to your parents. This is how you can tell parents, well, your son, you have your normal assessment. And like I said, make sure you have, yes, multiple choice questions, but you also have open questions that they have to answer in maybe a small answer, or essay questions if you have higher levels. You might also have maybe mix and match. You might also have fill in the blank. So you have different categories. And for each category, in here you have your rubric, and your rubric is the best way for you to pretty much, back up the points that you are assigning to your student. And think about it. Sometimes even as teachers, yeah, we do give more value to a certain questions, even when you guys do like a little bit of informal assessments. Sometimes we ask questions that are very simple, and sometimes we ask fully loaded questions. Okay, so that's why I added again here the rubric, because that is the best way that you can tell your parents and even explain to your students. This is how you can justify to your students. This is how much are the points that you are averaging. These are the points because on exercise 1 from your test, you got 3 points. On exercise 2, you got 4 points. On exercise 3, 5, and just like that, okay? Any other questions with assessments? And let me go back with your assessments. So again, remember, use the rubrics. That is the best way. So in here on the picture that I have on my right side, always make sure that you have, that you balance quality versus quantity. Because sometimes you might have those long assessments and they might be 50 questions, but that doesn't mean that you are really evaluating your students. However, you can have a very substantial, difficult exam, and it might only be 3 questions. Okay, so in there, try to balance quality versus quantity. Again, the rubrics are the best way, or the best source that you can use to help you balance out that. Always plan, of course, your assessments. Make sure that they are matched with the Bloom's taxonomy. Always the result. Of course, you will check and revise your results. Make sure you also implement a little bit of analysis in your assessments. Okay. Now, any more questions with assessments? Okay. Now, also, how can you develop not only your assessments, all your learning out goals, or even your rubrics? How can you do that? Well, I have a handout. There's a handout that I share. Actually, this wheel that was created, I'm not gonna take credit myself. This, it's a bird wheel, and I'm gonna show it to you right now. It's this one right here. Beautiful, wonderful tool as well. This was created by our coordinator, Magda Tiburcio. Maybe some of you have know her before or have attended some of her webinars. She redesigned this, and this is pretty much the, she was able to give me this beautiful handout. So props to my boss. This is the bird wheel based on the Bloom's taxonomy, the revised version. So also for that question that you were asking me, well, how can I explain to the parents? How can I use the rubrics? How can I do the PBL? How can, for the different levels, this is a very powerful tool. Like I said, you have it right there on your handouts. Okay. So in here, we have, it's color coded. We have the domains. We have the 6 levels: apply, remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And then the lighter blue has the appropriate verbs that you can use to create pretty much all those learning goals, your assessments, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, your assessments, and then at the end you have your student's product. What is it that your students can create? What is it that your students can do? Okay, so for instance, let's go to the to the create section. Okay, these are the things that your students can do. Okay, here we have a gameplay, book, article, a cartoon, a song, and here we have also the verbs that will tell us what is it that they are going to do with that invention, with that report, with that poem. They are going to formulate it, originate it, invert, revise, organize, design, etc. So this is free. This is a handout that we are sharing with you guys. Print it, like I said, it's very, very helpful. I've used it myself, and it's very, very, very nice. Okay. Okay. I have here a comment that my boss, she's saying that she found it and then she passed it to us. So, okay, so she found this beautiful, wonderful wheel. Okay, so correction, but thank you, boss. Okay. Okay. So now we're almost done. Okay. And so I shared with you 5 strategies to implement Bloom's taxonomy, and of course for our students to develop different thinking skills. Finally, I'm going to share with you and some additional activities that you can do with your students. Okay, these are simple, or they might seem simple, but that doesn't mean that they are not implementing or using thinking skills. These are different, completely different thinking skills that you teachers, you might already be doing in your classroom, but you don't know that they actually allow your students to develop or increase their thinking skills. Okay, first one we have here, recall and retell. Okay, so here, recall and retell. Okay, so pretty much the first one to recall, here it says the instructions. The students are going to look at the pictures, then they pay attention. You can give them like 1 minute, 2 minutes, and then they cover the top of the first part of the worksheet, and then they need to actually circle the objects that they saw at the first box. So this is a lot of them for them to retain information. So this is a recall activity. Then we have another one, and this is for the retell. This is called roll and retell. I got all this from Pinterest. Okay. And in here you will just use a dice. This is very fun. You can use this again also both activities with kinder. You can even use them also with older kids. Okay. They roll a dice. If it lands on number 4, that means that students need to describe and tell you when does the story take place. So in there's like this is, you can use it for story. Maybe you can have a roll and retell for verbs, adverbs, since you guys are English teachers. If you happen to teach another level, and I'm sorry, another subject, or if you do CLIL, maybe you teach like a science class, or maybe you make a connection with another, like I said, with another subject, maybe social studies, you can adapt this roll and retell, and you can just ask the questions about that particular subject that you are teaching. So I don't know, here for if they roll number 1 and it says what is the story mostly about, maybe if you are teaching verb to be, you can tell number 1 will be apply or use the verb to be in a affirmative, or in an affirmative, or in a negative, or in plural, or in singular, etc. So these are different strategies or things that you can do. So you can teach English, but at the same time, you are practicing thinking skills. Okay. The second activity that we have, this is another one about recalling. Okay. So allow your students, and here it says they take 2 minutes to look at the words and objects on the page. And once they flip the page, and they have to recall all the objects that they saw. Okay, so these are activities that maybe you can do on a Friday when you're trying to kill the last 10 minutes in the class and you're not sure what to do. So these are activities that, like I said, they are very beneficial. Okay, The next activity, and this is, oof, we all know about it. It's memory. Play memory games with your students. Okay, you can use cards. You can use like bingo cards, even like loteria. Or if you want to take it a little further, you can also implement your English teaching. For instance, in here we have a memory of adjectives. You can you can modify it and do it about nouns, verbs, different lexical, maybe the vocabulary words that you are teaching your students for the reading, maybe your words for the spelling bee. Okay, so you can have a memory game of the spelling bee. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can even play with post-its, okay, or just little small pieces of paper or cardboard. You can write down the nouns, for instance, or the adjectives, etc., and they can mix and match. So yes, you can have also pictures, but not necessary. You can even just do it with words, maybe for older levels. Okay. And now, our next activity, anagrams. These will really, really drive you crazy. Well, they drive me crazy, but they are also really cool. Okay, what is an anagram? Well, an anagram, it's pretty much, in here you can see we have a word, and of course words have different letters, so we use those letters to actually create a different word. Okay, so in here we have the example on the left, thrive, and it can also be fired, gainly, laying, sadder, dreads, listen, silent, and you can even do it like longer, like with phrases. So this is really going to expose your students to vocabulary. Okay, again, thinking, they're going to be able to decipher, analyze, remember. They need to. So if you think about it, they're applying a lot of the levels of the Bloom's taxonomy. Okay. And okay, so that's about it. We're going to get ready to wrap up. It's 6:16, so we're almost done. Okay, so now to wrap up, so we were talking about thinking. Okay, right now I went almost for an hour and a half talking about thinking. I shared with you some strategies. So what is thinking? What does that mean? Thinking means that our students are going to be able to use lower and higher. Remember, not only lower, not only higher, but we want to ensure that we use all of them, the 6 levels. So students are going to be able to use lower and higher skills of the Bloom's taxonomy. But if we are able to have them to acquire the higher order thinking skills, which you're going to see in some places, they call them HOTS, H-O-T-S. So we want students to start from the bottom, of course, and build up and develop all those higher order thinking skills, the HOTS. Okay. So what if we do this? If we are able to apply Bloom's taxonomy with the strategies that I provided you with, and yes, what is it that we're going to create? We're going to create thinkers. And if we create thinkers, these thinkers are going to be able to see information, data from different perspectives, from different dimensions, from different angles, okay? They are going to be able to conceptualize, they are going to be able to analyze, organize, synthesize, and most importantly, they are going to be able to solve problems or develop problem-solving skills. Remember those skills that I showed you at the beginning with these new jobs, with these new tasks, with these new careers that we don't know what's going to happen, that we don't know what the future is going to look like. The world is evolving so much, so we need to create thinkers, okay? If we create thinkers, we will prepare individuals or that pretty much can do and deal with social, mathematical, and scientific nature. Pretty much they can deal and take over the world. They can deal with everything. Thinking is going to empower them and is going to make them effective and level-headed decision makers, not only in their relationships, not only at school, but in their lives, okay? So right now, you can see that pretty much all the careers require critical and analytical thinking. So this is something that is very important that we need to apply to our students. So in order for them to succeed, not only at school, but in different places or at different places. Okay, so now I want to close. Thank you so much for your time. Using this quote, I really, really like it. It's one of my favorite ones, and I really like Albert Einstein as well. It says, education is not the learning of facts, so it's not just memorizing, but the training of the mind to think. Okay, and this is from Albert Einstein. Thank you so much for your time. These are my references. Okay. And also, this is my contact information. My name is again Anaid Bolaños. This is my email address. And this is the email for the academic services in Mexico, Richmond. And here I have some questions. Okay, thank you so much for the comments. I see here, congratulations, thank you, thank you. In case you wanna ask additional questions or you want information, please feel free to contact me, send me an email to my personal, that's my company's email, or to Servicios Académicos. In case you want further information, in case you say, you know what, I'm interested on PBL, I want to apply this other strategy, what else can you suggest me? So please feel free to email me or email Servicios Académicos. Thank you all of you for your comments. I still see the comments.